Well, 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 ladies, gentlemen, and every other type of being watching this video, we're back. In fact, you might say we're so back, if you want it to be an arrogant, cringy prick. So we're not going to say that. This is your host, Madman, and this right here is a commentary track for Blade Runner 2049, which is a movie that I've been meaning to do a commentary on for a while, and I just wasn't in the mood until now. So we're going to be doing one. So this movie, I saw it when it came out. I never saw it in theaters, but I saw it shortly after that. And I've watched it maybe once since then. So it's been quite a few years since I've seen it. But I remembered enjoying it, so we'll see if that enjoyment holds up, or if this turns into another Alien Resurrection, frantic, frenetic criticism video. This is a movie I never expected to pop up. The original Blade Runner is kind of like one of those movies that it seems like directorial or studio suicide to try to remake it, or unaliving. You can thank the YouTube censorship gods for that little fumble there. So this movie, it's it's kind of what they call a soft reboot. It doesn't really escape that label in my mind. There's a lot of things it kind of falls short on doing in terms of trying to one-up the source material or try to improve upon it. It's not perfect, but it's very, very good. So I'm happy to check it out. So we of course have the famous Illuminati Eye opening, but it's Ultra HD 4K 144 frames. My God. Then we have Palpatine's Senate chamber, I think. I don't know what the fuck this is. Oh, it's solar panels. That's right. Okay. For real, I have not watched this in like fucking 7 years, I guess it's been since it came out. Maybe 6 years. I rewatched it once, I think. And yeah, you know what? This doesn't actually look like California 2049. This looks like California 2024. So I'm going to deduct 1 point from the overall score of this movie, because you know what? This dystopian future, it's too much like the present. It should be worse. It should be a lot worse. Oh God, all the land saturated by farms, totally sucked dry, used and reused. Salted earth, fucking ancient Middle East. They didn't know how to replenish their soil. These guys figured out how to do it. It turns out you have to just farm worms. It turns out that after you've drained your soil of all nutrients, you can just set up grub farms, like this poor fuck is managing here. Now, I've never eaten those types of grubs. I've eaten mealworms and ants. I've tried chocolate-covered ants, and I've tried Rice Krispie squares with mealworms in them. And I think I ate a lollipop with a cricket in it, which was kind of it was like a candy sold to like young boys to try to gross out girls with. It was like, if you'll eat this, the girls will really freak out. It was like that type of shit. And I remember that stuff being around when I was a kid. But the context under which I ate the mealworms and the ants was there was a wilderness survival course that was being taught. I was part of a scouts program. And basically this guy was like, if you're ever lost in the woods, which hopefully you won't be if we've taught you right, and you absolutely will die if you don't eat something, you can literally lift up a log and eat bugs. And he basically said, here are the bugs that will be poisonous or make you sick, and here are the ones you can eat. It was a very practical thing, and it was taught to us for a specific situation. There was a use case for it. But in this movie, things are so fucked that people are just straight up farming protein using bugs, which, again, it's very efficient, right? Like, you can't argue it's an efficient source of dense protein. But the spiritual, moral, not even moral, the aesthetic of it is disgusting. The sort of it's a dehumanizing thing. It's like eating dead bodies reconstituted into crackers, which is what they eat in like the Warhammer 40K universe. There's this hardtack that the Space Marines eat, and it's made of recycled people. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's already going on now and we just don't know about it. I don't think it is, but if it was revealed that it has been, I wouldn't be surprised, okay? That's all I'm saying. We're going to keep things minimally schizo for this recording because I really do want to talk about the movie. This establishing shot is brilliant. He's in shadow there. The guy knows he's there, though. Like, he knows he's fucked. This wrestler actor, I forget his name, he knows he's screwed. His character knows. And there's this sort of unspoken understanding between the two, and it's portrayed totally visually. And I love it. He's sort of like, you're OCD, aren't you? Because you're a fucking robot. So I didn't want to make your house dirty because I know you're meticulous. And he goes, well, I didn't even want you to be here, man. And he's like, you're a cop, aren't you? Civic number. Whew. It's coming, guys. Get ready for it. You're all going to have a civic number. I mean, we already do. It's called a social security number. Mine is 8824-3125. If you want to try to steal my identity, that's the number to use. Enjoy. And again, they're designed. The bugs are not even real bugs. The simulation simulacra shit has gone so far that even the insects have gone extinct. Or else we've engineered ones to farm for their protein. Same way we did with pigs and chickens. We took wild birds and boars, and we cucked them over thousands of years to create a living food source. Frankly, I'm of the opinion we should just be taking cow muscle cells and growing perfect steaks out of them, because then there's no animal bullshit, literally or figuratively, that's required. Why not just do that? Every steak is perfect, there's no gristle or excess fat, and there's no animals that have to be harmed. They're kind of approaching that point in this show, which is, I guess, a nitpick of mine. At this point, they'd be growing all their meat in test tubes. They would not be farming actual worms. But again, it's an alternate timeline, it's a dystopia, and they haven't quite reached that point yet, or else it's just too expensive. Maybe the elites get to eat the perfect steaks, and the plebs, like you and me, we get to feast on grubs. Slimy yet satisfying, as they say in The Lion King. Am I right, fellow Disney bros? I love it. He puts away his glasses, takes out a fucking scalpel. He's got a scalpel as a weapon. God damn! Could have been any knife, could have been anything. He picks a fucking scalpel. Tiny, very sharp. And look at the strength he's got. He could fucking slice this guy like a slap chop. Woo! Guys, when you're remodeling your house, hire a replicant as your builder. They don't even need sledgehammers or other tools. They just throw themselves through the walls. But this motherfucker's upgraded. He's got the new Apple Vision musculature. he can have tiny, puny-looking arms and still beat the shit out of you. Whereas this guy, he's an older replicant. He's all beefy, you know. He's got a coat under his eye. What could that mean? What could that signify? And I love it. He's so creepily polite. Like, he hates his job, but he does it anyway. He's programmed. He's conditioned. This is the next level of conditioning where they straight up just make you incapable of not doing your job. Luckily, you and me and probably everyone you know will be dead before this future happens, so thank God for that, man. We're not going to live long enough, and our brains are not going to be useful enough to be resurrected by some AI overlord demon. We'll be too stupid, and our brains will be deemed worthless, so we'll just be allowed to gracefully pass into natural death. That's what I think will happen with this whole dystopian speculative timeline shit. You know, people are like, AI will resurrect you and torture you for a billion years. No. The amount of resources needed to keep your brain alive would be deemed totally inefficient and worthless by any AI with half a brain. So, you will not be around for this. That's why it's fun to watch it now. If this was going to happen, if I was concerned about it, I wouldn't want to watch it, man. The movies I don't watch are movies that are like, they're realistic in their depiction or their portrayal of some dark future. Or, even worse, they reveal the darkness already around us in the present. Ooh, spooky. I do realize it's Halloween, and I'm guessing the algorithm would probably favor my channel a bit more if I reviewed some spooky movies. So we might do that on this channel. We might post some reviews. Who knows? Maybe Meat Canyon will watch one. Maybe Wendigoon. Big shout out to those guys. I've been enjoying their videos. They've been filling the empty time in my life with something interesting. So, shout out to those guys. Subscribe to them if you're not subscribed. Check out their channels. They're actually good. I don't recommend people based on anything but my own preference. If I ever get any sort of endorsement or, sponsorship for a video, it won't be for anything that I don't already use, any product. Because I'm happy to recommend things to you if the recommendation comes from my own personal taste and not from some external creepy-ass forced thing. Now, we have a nice image here, a vaginal tree. Look at the slit in the tree there, right near that little flower. Nice vagina tree. Can it be any more overt? Breed, go forth and multiply, pass on your genes. Human body is like two trees. We've got a big network of nerves in our brain that's all twisted and branching, and we've got a big network of nerves in our gut, all twisted and branching like roots. It's like every human being is two trees. That's the ancient wisdom, guys. Every one of you, you're two trees. Fascinating. That makes me want to join every cult. That is, wow, man. How amazing that you have double tree symbolism. I'm so enraptured. You know what? I feel like giving you all my money, like Scientology, right? I feel like emptying my bank account because you showed me two trees. You showed me a skull. You showed me an eyeball. Wow, I'm hypnotized. I'm a complete idiot. Take my money. The reason I'm talking about this is this movie does have a ton of occult imagery in it, as does the original Blade Runner. Just to provide some context to my rambling there, this movie exists in that tradition, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I think it's incredibly creative that certain groups have taken symbols and recontextualized them and reused them and turned them into interesting, creative products or art pieces or whatever you want to call them. I think that's cool. I don't mind that. In fact, it's kind of cool. But, oh man, they took the same building and clone stamped it. Holy shit, that's lazy. I can see the different buildings. It looks like textures on a fucking like PS1 game where the ground texture is the same square of dirt cloned 500 times. That's fucking lazy. I'll tell you what, the original Blade Runner didn't do that. All the apartment blocks that aren't megaliths will be the same little crumbly, textured gray and black rectangle cloned 500 times. I mean, I don't blame them for it, but it's obvious, man. Lapped? What does that mean? Is it a swimming organization? Like they're gonna lap him? Is he gonna go for a swim? Are we gonna get Ryan Gosling in a Speedo? Oh, sign me up. Now, this is something interesting too. Anyone who's done any research into this movie knows that there's a bunch of cryptic, epic Kubrick lore about it. And it's a good movie. I'm not going to compare it to Kubrick, though. It doesn't even come close to that. But what it does do is it manages to actually use a reference to a poem in an interesting way. And the poem it's referencing here in the infamous incel interrogation scene here, incels, right? That's not by accident. That's not by mistake. Pay attention to that. The sort of what has become a kind of, it's more than a meme. It's like an emblematic scene for people who feel trapped in their jobs, abused by the system, lonely, without a real fulfilling life, without a real girlfriend. They're fapping to porn all day, etc., etc. This scene has become sort of emblematic of that culturally. It's a big fucking deal. Because you've seen this. You've seen the memes. The poem that the lines are from is called Pale Fire. And that poem is written by a fictional character within a little meta story written by none other than Vladimir Nabokov, the same man who wrote Lolita, which is not actually about what you think it's about. It's about the Russian Uralic ancient language sounding like apes grunting, and the English, French, and other romantic languages in Europe, they sound more refined, as if language had itself its own consciousness as an organism and had evolved. And the Russians and the rest of them using Cyrillic alphabet and, the Russian language, they are less evolved objectively according to the judgment of language as a being. But England and the European countries are more evolved. So Nabokov said, English is like a little child. The language of English is like a child. It sounds young. It sounds new. That's definitely why he wrote that book, and not because he was a creep. That's the story, anyway. I'm not going to comment on that, because that's not the point of this video, but that is what people argue about that author. I do like Pale Fire. I think that's a very good long poem, and the whole meta aspect of it kind of works. It's not amazing. It's probably not his best work. I haven't read all of Nabokov, because I'm not particularly interested in pursuing someone with those particular proclivities. But, undeniably, he wrote a good poem. I'll say that about him. Pale Fire is a good poem. Enough that the whoever was writing this chose that very well. And then, of course, we have basically the exact same apartment from the first Blade Runner. Like, it's dressed up a little differently. I don't know why the wall is made of extremely poorly laid, warped tiles that don't in any way look cheap. They look more expensive than just having a flat piece of metal or glass or wood or some other material cover that surface. It seems like, individually tiling things would have been a lot more expensive. And for a poor guy living in a shitty apartment, it wouldn't have been a series of little brick tile things. Forgive me for getting so detailed about interior design, but I think they're trying to replicate the original Blade Runner's construction of Harrison Ford's apartment out of like these weird cubes, which looked way better. It looked like they'd been 3D printed. It looked like buildings had been 3D printed. This doesn't look like that, and it should. It should look more like that. Every building in this universe, this narrative, should be 3D printed by giant machines. We're already starting to do that with houses now, and it's funny how this movie kind of I think they rushed. I think they rushed through a lot of the design of the city and the design of the house. And what makes the original Blade Runner so amazing is that its atmosphere is very consistent. All the set pieces and set design choices kind of chime, or they kind of vibe with each other. I like the word chime. Reminds me of bells. Beautiful sound. But there's a certain consistency, whereas in this movie you've sort of got this very... reminds me of the Korean apartments from Cloud Atlas, from that movie. You've got this very stark, sort of flat, paneled, room, and then you have certain parts of the house, like the kitchen, that are clearly, obviously homages to the original Blade Runner in terms of how they look. And it puts me, I notice it. Takes me out of things. And of course, he's got his nice Alexa waifu, and she's covered his gruel already with a fake steak image, and he's smoking a cigarette. Why isn't he smoking a virtual cigarette? Why isn't it actually a vape? Well, it's because we had 400,000, or rather 400 million Chinese immigrants come into the US, and they all smoke. Let me tell you, they think it's healthy. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is. There's a thought. Maybe nicotine, because it's a antifungal and vermifugic chemical, is actually so beneficial for you that it's actually worth the risk of cancer to get it into your blood. Maybe your blood should have a little bit of nicotine in it. Not an excessive amount, moderation in all things, but maybe it's actually very, very good for you. And that's why it's been polluted with shards of fiberglass and other carcinogenic crap and artificial flavors. Maybe just pure tobacco leaf on its own, smoked in small amounts, is extremely good for you. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? So then we have our epic character. He's going to have a moment of roof brooding. Roof brooding, my favorite trope of the dark story. No matter what genre or aesthetic, there's always a scene where the character walks onto the roof to brood. Usually it's raining, not always. But he walks out and he has a brood. Everyone's got to have a brood. It's kind of like taking a psychic shit. Sometimes you have to brood for a bit and sort of purge your mind, or your spirit, or whatever you want to call it, of negative thoughts. Brooding, it gets a bad rap. It was given a bad rap, I think, by the whole emo trend in the late 90s, zeros. It was sort of this state of mind that became, or it tried to become commodified. It tried to become part of the simulacra, and people liked it for a while, but then they were like, you know what? You're not gonna colonize our brooding, our meditation with your digital crap. We want that to be ours. Now we've got a reference, very subtle, to the tears in rain scene, because of course we can't tell if he's crying. There's rain pouring down his face. And what's so amazing about this tech is that this girl can even get wet. The hologram is good enough that rain actually affects it. Reminds me of the Doctor from Star Trek Voyager. Good old Robert Picardo, man. Pretty sure that's the guy's name. He does a great job in that role. That series sucks ass. There's maybe, I don't know, out of however many episodes there are, maybe 15% of them are good. But they are good. So, Voyager, check it out. 85% of it sucks. Don't you want to check it out after I gave it such a glowing review? Anyway. Oh God, he touches her face. Oh. I'm so happy. I'm your little slave girl. I love it. He says, you don't have to say that. Man, if I had one of these AI chicks, I'd want like a bipolar chick. I'd be like, computer, give me a chick who's bipolar, and then I'll spend 10 years of my life trying to fix her. My God, nothing would obsess me more than that. Nothing would grab me more than that. And also these automated messages, man, I'd disable those. I'd hack the fucking software if I had to, because that shit is creepy as hell. But very effective in the movie, how she freezes like that. It's so uncanny, man. He just walks past her. He looks at her like he wants to have sympathy for her, but then there's like every moment he interacts with her, he's like grappling with his sense of how she's not real. Like it's great. His reactions in this are fantastic. Ryan Gosling does a great job performing as basically a future hyper incel. This movie's all very hyper real in a Baudrillardian sense. If you don't know who that is, Jean Baudrillard was a French theorist and philosopher, and he basically talked about how we use illusions to replace reality. That's the Cliff Notes version. It's not just that making an illusion produces an alternative to reality. It's that if the alternative is so enticing, people will flock to it enough that they will actually ignore reality in favor of the illusion, to the point where enough people are ignoring reality that reality itself starts to fade out of view and seem unreal. That's the Baudrillard argument. It's behind movies like The Matrix. It's behind all the Blade Runner films. A lot of other movies, too, took inspiration from it. Very good book, too. Simulations and Simulacra by Baudrillard is very short, and it's very accessible. You don't have to be a fucking genius or a nerd to read it. You can just read it. It's like a guy talking to you at a bar. It's a very well-written book, very accessible without dumbing itself down. I highly recommend it. If I could recommend one book to most people who actually watch my crazy-ass videos, go read Baudrillard's Simulations and Simulacra. It's 100 pages. I read it on a 2-hour plane ride like 10 years ago. Great book. Not perfect. It misses a few things. It was written in 1981, so it's not perfect, again. But, you know, these movies draw inspiration from it, and they're more proof that the bullshit that nerds jack each other off to in ivory towers does eventually, the jizz drops do eventually trickle down like a soft rain onto the wider society of golems and plebs. As much as a lot of those people try not to make that happen. They don't want people to know what they're talking about. Others are idealists, and they want everybody to know. But a lot of them don't. A lot of them are very, I think, correctly protective of these ideas, and they cloak them in sort of difficult language or, you know, other barriers, paywalls, whatever you want to say. Act as a barrier. A lot of things can. Because they're worried about normal people knowing them. And the older I get, the more I'm like, most people aren't ready to know most things. And I look back on my youth, and any guy who has any sense of morality or honor of any kind, of any form, will have tried to, not red pill or black pill people, but you will have tried to, at some point in your youth, elevate someone around you by telling them something that they didn't know, or by exposing them to some knowledge. And then you realize as you get older, if those people didn't seek out that knowledge on their own, they weren't ready for it, and you forced it on them. You kind of brain raped them a little bit. That's a very difficult thing to realize, but it's true. A lot of people don't want to know things, and if you force the knowledge into their head, it will harm them. And it's not necessarily because they're stupid, it's because that's not their thing, you know? It's like being the guy at the party who has to educate everybody about, I don't know, the Punic Wars. Like some guy just watched a video on the Punic War between Rome and Macedonia, and they're like, this is epic, everyone should know about this. And they're excited, you know, they're autistic, and they want to tell everybody about it. No matter what the subject is, no matter what the knowledge is, there's a lot of subjects you probably shouldn't do that with. And that's something that I figured out probably a lot later than most in my life. Or maybe I didn't figure it out because I'm making this video right now. Who knows? But I know you guys are cool. The 5 of you that watch this shit, props. You know what? Toast to you guys. Toast to all of you. For real. Thanks for watching my stuff. I do appreciate you. I appreciate your involvement. Anyway, so basically this guy's talking to his lesbian boss, who might as well be a replicant, even though she's apparently a real person. You know, he calls her Madam. Ooh, she's talking about souls now. We're getting spiritual, guys. Guys, this movie gets a bit philosophical. I don't know if you know, but Ryan Gosling's character, he's grappling with some existential issues here, and I think if he just, I don't know, took a break, maybe went out to the country somewhere. Oh wait, there's no countryside left in this world? It's literally all gray farmland? Like the whole planet? Oh. Okay, well maybe you take a simulation trip. Okay, no, that wouldn't work either, would it? Okay, this guy's just fucked. This is a good shot of the city. This is a good cityscape. God damn. They had to shove the fucking Atari logo in here. How would Atari still be a company in 2049, man? Didn't they get bought by another company in like the 90s? I don't know. Again, shameless reference to the original. Now, the thing about never having seen a miracle, that's interesting. Miracles are a form of hypnosis. They're an elevation of any event that seems unnatural or out of sorts or novel to human ape brain idiot eyes. Magicians and con artists for thousands of years have been calling their stuff miracles. And this guy he's an engineered person, he's not real. So he's extra susceptible to programming. He's extra susceptible to conditioning, to symbols, to all this type of crap. And we see this throughout this film. There's a particular symbol he encounters that totally fries his programming, and it diverts him from his purpose, which was to be a hunter of his own kind. A lot like Vampire Hunter D, which is a cringy example, but it's a great manga. Read the manga and watch the 2002 movie. They're very good. A lot like D, he seems to exist only to kill his own kind, because in this movie's context, he's been engineered to, right? Vampire Hunter D, that's not the case, but the results are very similar. He has this persistent self-hatred that ironically drives him. It gives him energy. Like, hating himself gives him power, which is exactly the opposite of what it does for 99.9% of people, no matter what your loadout in this game of reality is. Most people, if they hate themselves, that's a negative thing. People like this are very strange because their self-hatred is actually a driving force. By killing their own kind, they're killing the parts of themselves that they know are evil. Even if it's the entire self. In this guy's case, he's a constructed person. He's not real. So if he wanted to rebel against the system, he'd have to not only destroy himself, but everybody like him. So, very interesting concept. I mean, you know, me personally, I'm like this bald dude. I'm like this archivist guy. That's like my loadout, my destiny is to be some creepy monk, digital monk librarian dude, and be like, that file is in Vault 54, allow me to show you. You know? I'm also balding, so it works perfectly, you know. Also, I don't think this guy gets killed or harmed in any way by the story, which is appealing to me, you know. I'm not really keen on being eviscerated or drowned or strangled or anything else. I'd rather just be the bald guy in the library. That's a pretty good job, you know. It's a cool gig. You get to help people. You have access to all this knowledge. You can go home with some borrowed books or tapes and read about whatever you want. It's a pretty comfy life. I wonder if the bald guy has does he have like a gay version of the Alexa phantom robot AI hologram chick? You know, he goes home and there's like some guy waiting for him like, I made stuffed peppers and later I'm gonna stuff your pepper. What a paradise. Now the parallel here that's interesting is the parallel between Greek statues and these clones. The pyramidal shape of the buildings, obviously a reference to ancient Egypt, but I think that the floating replicants in the tanks, it's a kind of extreme example of the ancient Greek and Greco-Roman veneration of the human form, which, if you do it a little bit, it's fine. But if you get obsessed over it, it's not even like you're narcissistic. It's like hyper narcissism. It's like, no, everything should look like this. This human body that we found ourselves in, everything in reality, every animal should actually look like this or behave like this. It's an OCD autism type of thing that thankfully fell out of favor because it's impossible to enact. Idealism really, I think, should just be replaced by the term autism. I think anybody who is an idealist, who thought that they could remake the world, or that they should, or that it should be remade in one image or another, or blah, blah, blah. They're people who are really fucking OCD, and they have a lot of power and money for whatever reason, usually by the circumstances of their birth, according to human history. And they look at reality like it's a fucking Lego set that they can recombine, and they have no care or interest in what damage they might be doing. They just want their little imagined reality to replace actual reality. And that goes back to Baudrillard. The whole simulation simulacrum thing, it's like weapons grade autism. It's people who are so fucking autistic that they're like, I don't even want to participate in the world unless it matches these parameters I've set. That is a one-way ticket to hell. If you have anything in your mind that is prompting you to think that way about any aspect of your life, kill it immediately. Don't hide it, don't bury it, don't run away from it in fear. Confront it and kill it, because that will make your life into pure hell. Because not only will you probably not achieve your dream, the even worse option is you actually do achieve it. And then what do? You're like Alexander looking at his empire saying, there's no more worlds to conquer. I've done it. I've won. What now? People like to debate, by the way, and I'll go off on a tangent here because I want to. People like to debate how Alexander the Great died. I think he killed himself. People are like, oh, he died of syphilis. Oh, his medicine guy poisoned him. If you listen to what he said, how he was weeping, looking over his empire and saying, I can't do anything else. I've done everything. That's a man who's ready to kill himself. And I think he killed himself. And I think that the people around him covered it up, because at the time, it would have been a very shameful way to die. But suicide is not a small thing, man. Suicide is very fucking... It requires courage. Cloud Atlas, the movie, I know this is the second time I've mentioned it. It's not a great movie. I wouldn't even recommend it, but there's a great line from it. One of the characters kills themselves, and they say, suicide is a courageous act. It's not a coward's act. It takes balls to kill yourself, even if you're high, even if you're fucked up. To actually try to do it, or to do it, it's not a cowardly act. It's a tremendous act of courage. It's like, my life is over. I will now make that real. Because reality has not done that for me at the pace that I think it should. It's arrogant. I would say it's arrogant. It's not cowardly, but it is arrogant. You know, it's a sinful act. I want to make that very clear. I'm not advocating for that. Nobody should do that. Nobody should commit unaliving. But those that do it successfully or with assistance, it takes balls. It's not a small decision to make. It's not like, I'm going to gamble my daughter's college fund away in Vegas. It's not like that. It's, I'm going to end everything. That's a big fucking deal. So any person who makes that choice, either they made it because they had no options, or they made it because the available options were worse. They made it because if they had done something else other than that, they would have gone straight to hell. Metaphorically speaking, of course. So now we have fucking Jared Leto with his sex cult eyes. This is what the real Jared Leto wants. I feel like he wants to live in this universe. You know, he's part of some creepy sex cult in Hollywood. He's got some fledgling Scientology thing going, some Heaven's Gate shit. He's part of some free love hippie bullshit thing. I mean, all the actors in Hollywood are mentally, they're not even raped. It's like someone tried to lobotomize them and only got halfway done. They stuck a needle up their nose and just kind of scrambled their brain and then just kind of left it. That's what most actors in Hollywood come across as to anyone who's even slightly normal. They come across as brain-scrambled retards. They like to play piano in retardando mode. That's what I'm saying. Preserve the clay. Ah, yes. And now he's blind. It's a misuse, I think, of the blindness thing. They don't do enough with it in this. It's done as a symbolic thing, but practically, I don't think it has enough weight in the story. I don't like his blindness as a thing in this. He didn't have to be blind. It would have been more interesting if he was a real person who had put his brain into a replicated body. Now that would have been interesting. If Jared Leto's character in this movie had had some cancer and had had his brain transplanted into a replicant body. And maybe he's the only person where that procedure has worked. Let's say that's the case in my hypothetical rewrite of this movie. I don't want to bring Plinkett in, but I kind of have to here.
Okay, guys, so we're watching Blade Runner 2049. Madman's brought me back from hell. I was actually having a nice time sitting on the beaches of the Lake of Fire. You know, there's a kind of red aurora in hell. It's actually kind of beautiful. Anyways, he's brought me back to talk about Blade Runner 2049. Now, I would never make a movie about the original Blade Runner, because I only make commentaries about what I hate. I meant commentary, not movies, sorry. I've had a few vodka gimlets. But anyways, in this movie, Jared Leto's character is blind. I think it's kind of a weird choice. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, elevating disabled people. Oh, this chick's got a nice ass. Anyways, he's blind, right? So he has these different things to sense things for him or something. It's like a commentary on the blind prophet, or eye for an eye, or, in a blind man's world, the one-eyed man is king, all that kind of crap. I understand that that's what this movie's accessing in terms of like a reservoir of references, but I think it would have been a lot more interesting for the plot if Jared Leto's character actually had to transplant himself into one of his creations. Now, the reason that'd be interesting is kind of complicated, but I'm going to talk about it. So basically, instead of murdering this random character in this scene, let's say Jared Leto's character was transplanted into an artificial body. And let's say that because of this, he should have sympathy for his own creations, because they're basically made of like the same shit he's made of now, except for his brain. But to make him look truly evil, it would have been better if this series started by showing him as like, I don't know, instead of a recluse like fucking, I don't know, Ted Hughes or something with a greasy beard sitting in his pyramid drinking milk bottles and then pissing in them. Instead of that, he could have been a really cool character. He could have been a guy who, despite having a body that he made for himself, he still has this soulless, totally detached attitude toward his own creations. Kind of like an evil god. Kind of like the demiurge or Satan, where he has contempt for his creations. It's not just that he's indifferent, or that he chose not to interfere. It's that he actually wants them to suffer. Like he regrets or in some way hates the fact that his body had to be artificial. Like he hates his own body for rebelling against him, getting cancer or something. Whatever impetus was, the thing that made him switch bodies. I think that would have been a better way to write the character. Because then you got this guy who's totally intertwined with his own creation. He should be sympathetic, but he's so fucking evil that he actually hates those creations. He resents their existence. He wants them to be realistic, not because he's trying to sell product, but because he wants to watch them suffer. It's like a voyeuristic spectacle. It's like how God just wants to watch us all suffer because it's fun for him. It's the reason suffering exists, by the way. A demon passing on the beach told me that a few weeks ago. Anyways, I'm gonna let Madman get back to his review. Thanks for listening, folks. New Plinkett reviews might be coming in the future. Maybe. If you like and subscribe.
Anyway, that's basically what I would say as Plinkett about that type of shit. I really do think that would have been a better way to portray his character. I think portraying him as blind, making that his quirky Joss Whedon character flaw, like he's a lesbian or a robot or he's in a wheelchair. I think making him blind was kind of a cop-out. The floating eyebots are kind of cool, I guess, but thematically, like make him a normal human who put his brain in a replicant body. That would have been interesting. I love it. These Russian hoes, they're basically everything in this movie that's like futuristic. It's a representation of a real thing. These are like Russian mail order brides. You know, they're not just average hookers. She's got a fucking Russian hat on. They're talking to each other like this guy's dangerous. Blah 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 blah. Whatever language they're speaking, they're like mail order brides. Is what I'm trying to say. Don't you know what I am? He says. God damn. She's trying to get some sucky fucky. Woo! I wouldn't go within like 5 meters of a chick who looks like this. Her entire fit screams disease. There's enough disease floating around. Why invite more? It's a great Oscar Wilde quote where he says, no, it's not Oscar Wilde. Who is it? It's Tarkovsky. He says, I hate being in love. It's like a disease. The older I get, the more I agree. It really is a kind of disease. It's a fever. That's why the old writers and philosophers described love as a fever, because it is. Your body is taken over. You become inflamed. Inflammation increases. Blood flow goes to all sorts of places. Anyway. Ironically, now he's using a scalpel to cut the sort of police tape where the guy from this domicile attacked him with a scalpel. I wonder if it's the same scalpel. Was there a moment when he stole the scalpel from the guy's little kit? I don't remember that. Ryan Gosling's character in this too, he kind of looks like he's in a World War II movie in some shots. Like he's got sort of a greasy beard, he's got black gloves, he's got a kind of 1940s aerial ace, Red Baron kind of jacket on. Like he's got a very 1940s look to him. So this movie is clearly trying to evoke World War II vibes. I don't know why it would try to do that. I wonder why it would try to do that. That's interesting. Interesting question. But I would buy and wear that jacket. It's a sick jacket, I have to say. I don't know if I could pull it off, but I'd try. Oh, and what's in the little case? Ooh. The Victorian artifact that sets off the mystery. Very classic. I do like this. I like that there's a tangible little artifact and it seems to shatter all the digital urbanized crap. Just a simple photograph and a piece of clothing is enough to destroy the illusion because it's so fragile. We forget. We think these illusions we've made are so invincible. All it takes to destroy them is a photo, which is itself an illusion. All it takes is a nostalgic item for the nostalgia to shatter the illusory present by summoning up an illusion of the past. One illusion killing another. The war of illusion. It's like every 21st century war so far has just been people arguing over which fake map looks better to them. And now he uncovers a little date, and he has a little flashback of memory. He's got a little horse in his hand. What could that mean? It means you should watch The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. It's a very good movie. It's about an angel trapped on Earth who's sympathetic to all the demons and souls in purgatory so much that it stays on Earth much longer than it should. But perhaps that's its destiny. Who knows? Ooh. Yeah, cool guys don't look at fires or explosions. I hate that shot. That's so fucking lame. Should have zoomed in on him walking away from the back, and then you don't see the flames in the house until you hear them go off, and then you see the tips of the flames as the camera pans in over his shoulder, and he gets into his car. That'd be how I would edit that scene. That'd be how I would make it perfect, because all my ideas are perfect, and everything I suggest is the best thing ever. And you should all listen to it. Oh! Okay, well, that rubber banded me back to the movie. Jesus Christ, his eye is full of blood. That is horrifying. Fucking hell. You got the Aperture Science logo on the fucking walls above the coroner's body slots. God damn. Don't say nothing. What if he found nothing? You commanding him to lie? What a cunt. These scenes, they're supposed to be noir inspired, but I hate how they're lit. They look cold and dead. And if this movie is aping off the original, these scenes can't look like this, man. It's too green. The color correction on every fucking scene in the police station is like Matrix green, sewer green, algae green. Let's make everything slightly green. It's fucking distracting, man. It should be black and brown and dark. It should be like a smoky bar. Every fucking interior in this should be like a smoky bar. If you really want that noir aesthetic, if you want the there's a great term from the Batman original series that the creators coined, which is dark deco instead of art deco. That's what this movie should look like. It should look like dark deco. It should look like Batman the original series. Then it'd be perfect. But it looks like Matrix puke green, baby spinach puke green. And these they all look like lizard people. It like in a different movie it would work, right? Like I'm not criticizing the style on its own, but in this movie this is not right. It looks too clinical. I know he's a robot and he's being analyzed all the time. I understand that. But it's still too clinical. It's still not Blade Runner. That's why this movie will never live up to the original. Doesn't matter how many Mad Max orphan children in an industrial park scenes that you film and shove in. It doesn't matter. The fact is, the scenes we're seeing that take place in the present don't look right. They don't match. It's me nitpicking this because I've seen the original Blade Runner like 50 times, but you know, it's a movie I watched with my dad a lot. I've got nostalgic attachments to it. I already talked about nostalgia, you know. Sue me. So he hides his horse in the little Auschwitz oven, and he and his shaved head Holocaust chums. Why is his head not shaved? That's a clue that the memory's fake, if you didn't already know. This kid's head isn't shaved. He's got hair. Now they're kicking him to death, probably doing other things to him. Nasty. Little K fighting for what's his. Hee hee hee. I can't remember if this chick dies, but man, I'd love to see it. She just has this aura in this movie. The character has this aura where you just want to see her face crushed by like an excavator or something into an unrecognizable pulp of flesh and bone, where you can't even tell that there was even a face there. She's got mad Karen energy, man. That's what I'm saying. She's wearing like some David Bowie fucking glittery black shirt. What the fuck is that shit? She's going to the club after this. She's gonna fuck some robots. Woo! That's one of the best moments. There's an old Game Grumps playthrough of like Pokemon Red. Pokemon Fire Red, I think, where they talk to the guy in Pallet Town who's like, technology is incredible. And Aaron just goes, technology is incredible. You can totally fuck robots now. See you later. It's a good time. It's a lot of laughs, guys. Go watch the show. Game Grumps pays my bills. They pay for my booze and vape cartridges. So like and subscribe to Game Grumps. I know they're cringe now, but the people behind the cringe are still human beings, okay? They made it big. Yes, they've all got binders, they've all got sponsors. That's how it works. Just go give them a like. Don't do that. The Game Grumps sucks ass now. They've sucked ass since like 2012. Some of the Danny stuff is okay, but man, most of it's not. Most of it's just boring. So now we have our epic main character. He's searching through some gene codes. What secrets could he find? Is it going to be like Contact, the book by Carl Sagan, where there's a secret message hidden in the digits of pi for humanity to discover? Oh, and his GF is not looking over his shoulder. She's looking through it. Isn't that interesting? I like that in the genetics, in the genome, you can make the word cat out of the genes. Maybe that means cats are kind of important, are significant to the human genome. That you can make the word cat. I don't know, that's just a schizo theory. But it's kind of cool to think about. I hate her raincoat too. It's such a blatant reference to the fucking first movie where the snake chick replicant is trying to escape Harrison Ford, and she's wearing some greasy ass raincoat. Like, I get that those raincoats are worn by a bunch of people in this, I understand, but why is she wearing it indoors while she's looking over his shoulder at a microscope? Like, but she wouldn't be wearing a raincoat indoors. If she's an AI-generated person, she'd be dressed in clothing that's appropriate for the situation. Maybe he just programmed her like an idiot. Who knows? Miss me with all this AI shit, man. I'd rather just be alone. Jesus Christ. It's so fucked. Pushed into the world. Farted out of a vagina. You do get the sense that this guy's sort of fucked from the start. Like, it's almost like everything around him is kind of fucking with him or testing him in some way. That's a common theme in anything that has Jungian roots. And I do think that these movies, the original and this one, do have roots that are based in Carl Jung's work. They're very archetypal. There's a lot of self-interrogation. There's a lot of dream and memory significance. It's a very Jungian kind of conception of a reality. Oh, the gats and the cats and the triple G's. Cats and gats and triple G's, triple T's, yo. They're lining up. Cats with Gats. That's my new furry comic, guys. I've just started a webcomic. It's based on Utopia. It's called Cats with Gats. It's also based on Lackadaisy, which is another furry thing that popped up in my YouTube recommendations for some reason. Cats with Gats. That's not bad. It's kind of cool, actually. Somebody make that. Someone make Cats with Gats. I'd watch it. I'd read the webcomic. That sounds interesting. So he's looking for an orphanage now. Do you want to go for a ride? You want to ride your Harley? Vroom, vroom. This scene represents her pussy getting wet. That's the epic symbolism here. The dam is breaking. Either that or she's pissing herself. Maybe he's into that. Maybe not. Who knows? It's a mystery. It's one of this film's many mysteries. I love how they still have windshield wipers that look exactly the same, too. Like, windshield wiping tech has not evolved. There's not a anti-water coating on the glass of the windshield. There's no kind of laser that wipes the water off or vaporizes it. No, it's just windshield wipers. I actually like that, for real. That's actually cool. Ah, yes, Los Angeles waste processing. That's the entire state. It's all WALL-E. This movie's actually a precursor to WALL-E. It's a prequel to WALL-E. All right, so in the WALL-E garbage dump, guys, I'm going to just cut the video in half a bit here, or in thirds, probably. It's a long movie. I got to check the recording, and I got to go to bed. So I will bid you adieu for now. We are at 1 hour and 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds. 10, 11. Peace out. Hello again, everyone, and we are back with more Blade Runner 2049. So, we're in some kind of Guillermo del Toro rusted... I feel like this is what Mad Max could have been. Like all these decrepit buildings and the way they're sort of falling into each other. And there's people inhabiting them. It's very Fallout. And that's another thing about this movie that I like, is it portrays these ruined industrial areas that had a purpose in the past, without trying to say, oh, all of society's like this. No, it's just these areas. But also, if you fly over them, you might get hooked. This whole series, this series of images, it really reminds me of Fury Road. The way he's sort of towed back into hell. He's trying to fly above some area of purgatory, and he's being dragged down by these rustophiles. People obsessed with computation and garbage and recycling and dust, even when it has no purpose. And this is another trope of this movie that I think is done well. I think the technology, the sort of e-waste kind of awareness, it's interesting. You know, this whole environment he's in is a giant garbage dump, and oh god, his AI GF trying to wake him up. Fucking hell, man. She glitches out, and what's behind her? Men trying to kill him. There's a primitive violence that's behind the illusion. Because all they want is his car, his tech. Here they are extracting it. And he's like, oh, don't put me in a steampunk thing, man. Fuck you. And they're treating him like he's part of the car. That's what's important. You have to understand, these are real humans. They're real people. And if you were in their shoes, if you're a real human, which I hope most of you are, you might react the same way. You might say, hey, we're trying to salvage this car. Oh, the car's AI is being difficult. Good God, look at those explosions. God damn! They're using orbital lasers. It's Oprah. She's like, I want the real estate in the junk heap. It's the new Hawaii. Paint the roofs blue and shoot a laser. I love it. This cold, calculating eye is determining his fate while she's getting her fucking nails done with My Little Pony rainbow shit. Hope the nail guy fucking cuts her throat. This chick is the worst villain in any movie ever. She is so goddamn evil. She's worse than Lilith. She's like hyper Lilith. Lilith brought back just so she could be killed again in a more satisfying way. You know what? Given how she dies in this, I'm all for it. Drowned in the water, feminine element, you drowned in your own element. You were too arrogant. You were too stupid. You thought you could recreate society as a feminine play place. Girls only. There's always that meme of like the no girls allowed sign outside a treehouse run by boys. when women do that, society looks like this. When there's a no boys allowed sign, this is what society looks like. This is the truth. This is it. The no girls sign isn't productive or interesting or good either. But I gotta say, the no boys allowed sign, if you really want to live in this reality, there aren't many positions available to be that ultimate dominatrix female vampire chick. And even when you are the ruler, what are you ruling over? You're ruling over this. Congratulations. You've conquered reality. You've conquered a junk heap. You've conquered a sewer. You're the mistress of all toilets. Congratulations. Aren't you great? Would that they had eyes to see. And he opens the door, and here's the children who made your iPhone that you might be watching this video on. I hope to God you're not, but you might be. There's a good chance you are. And this fucker, he's been one of these children, or he thinks he has. He has a memory that makes him sympathize with the iPhone builders. But maybe that's not real. All these bald-haired children, it's like he's the new Buddha. He's the new prophet. This fucker reminds me of Gildemir from Eon Flux. This guy is like Gildemir. He thinks he's a prophet because he's been conditioned to think that he is. What an insidious system that would serve that false fantasy to its own drones. And it's not exclusive to him. It's everyone. It's us. It's you and me right now. It's me making this video. Me making this video is me being this character, thinking that I'm some savior. That's the creepy thing about this movie. That's why I'm making this commentary, because it's interesting what this movie does to your perception of your role in a global economy, whether it's capitalist or communist or blah, 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 some unknown word, some unknown system. It doesn't matter. You're still a part of it. And now he says, I'm just a mason. I'm playing a game. The floor is a checkerboard. You can't put me in jail because I got a checkerboard floor. And I'm a mason. I gotta like the checkerboard. Reality's a game, nigga. It's not true. I love it. He's like you're running this shithole orphanage that's like the worst part of the Catholic Church combined with Mad Max. Can you imagine that? The popes are driving the cars and there's like 8-year-old boys doing the work. They're all doing the dirty work. Oh my God, man. Whoo. Man, the Masons are butthurt about that Catholic slander that they had to deal with in like the early 1700s. Holy shit. They're so butthurt about it. They're making movies about it. That's so pathetic. Why would you waste time, effort, and money making something just to cope? For fuck's sake, man, you might as well just huff your own farts. Good God. But it's undeniable, the occult imagery in this, it's so saturated. Certain groups will have certain roles in inserting these symbols and these portrayals. The very presence of certain actors like Ryan Gosling probably has some significance to some group that still has a grudge over a troll that took place 500 years ago. Can you imagine being butthurt about a troll that took place 500 years ago? It'd be like being mad at a bully that bullied you when you were in first grade and you're in your 40s. Like, It's that pathetic. Anyway, you got a Jesus fish motif on the desk? I mean, come the fuck on. The movie's fucking supporting what I'm saying. Jesus Christ. I didn't rape them kids. It was them Catholic priests, man. I swear. I know they all have similar names to me, and they came here about the same time, but I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. Yeah, sure, buddy. There's ripped out pages. What could that mean? Don't fall for it, Ryan Gosling. They're trying to mind rape you. They know you're smart, so they're creating a very elaborate story for you, but it's still so shoddy and stupid that you should be able to see through the cracks in it and realize they're just another group of vampires trying to hypnotize you to whatever bullshit symbols they've dredged up from the past. And he doesn't realize it. He's not awake. He doesn't see it. His robe looks skeletal. Look at the skeleton bone greenish black pattern on the back of his trench coat there. He's not Neo. That's what that's saying visually. Neo, his cloak was black. This guy, he's got skeleton ribs poking out. It means he hasn't gotten over the idea of his own death, or rather, more appropriately and more specifically, the death of his own ego. He hasn't allowed his own ego to die. So he's stuck in a metaverse of his own making. And reality supports this because reality is full of con men. And when you're not a fully fledged individual, when you don't understand yourself, when you don't know who you are and what your desires and sins are, you become this guy. Not an NPC, but something worse. A failed NPC that ends up being used as a pawn in a narrative. And that's what makes this movie meta. It is looking at not only the original Blade Runner, but the narratives that inspired it. It's what saves this movie, in my opinion, is its boldness. It tries to confront these ideas in a very bold way, using memory. We've got him, he's walking up to an Auschwitz oven. He's got a World War II pilot jacket on, very blatantly 1940s aesthetic. His beard looks comparable to, and his haircut as well, to what those soldiers would have had, and he's confronting the World War II bullshit, and he finds what he's looking for here. He's looking for that little horse, that Pegasus, that unicorn, that little gem, that little memory that motivated him. It was a fake thing. It was a false thing, but it gave him energy, motivation, purpose. But it was a false purpose. Just like pills or drugs will give you a false happiness. That's what memory is in this film. Memory is a drug, and everyone possessed by it is possessed in the same way a fucking heroin addict is. It might be your parents or your grandparents or your friends. Maybe somebody you know is knowingly fucking up their own life for a memory. And we all do this. Even the best of us do it. At the best of times, we fuck our own lives over for a memory, for an image, for a simulation, for a map of a territory, of a landscape that doesn't exist. That's why this movie's so brilliant. It dares to say, here's what you're doing to yourself. You're obsessing over a little horse doll you found in an Auschwitz oven, when you could be looking for a wife, or a husband, or a job. Instead, you're this. You're a number written on a hoof. And he sees this, and he doesn't know how to process it. He's so fucked up. He's so traumatized. He's given the knowledge before he was supposed to have it. He figures some things out a little too early. There's a great line from Shine On You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd where the line goes, You reached for the secret too soon and cried at the moon. And that's this film. But even that eventuality has been accounted for by the system. That's what makes this so creepy. It's what makes it comparable to the likes of 1984. Even this distress and this nostalgia has already been predicted by the system, and his AI GF is doing nothing but ingratiating his state of mind. She's doing nothing but supporting his fantasy. And it's because he's supposed to believe this. He's supposed to be disillusioned. He's supposed to be the character in the film you're watching. He's supposed to be Ryan Gosling's character in 2049. And that's where this movie, very arrogantly in my opinion, tries to be like Aeon Flux. But it's not as good. If you've seen Aeon Flux, you've seen a version of this movie that's 100 times better. If you've seen a single episode of that, you've already watched this movie. You've already experienced it. In all its nuance and beauty, you've experienced all of it. All of its contemplation of simulation and the impact it has on reality, everything. Everything is covered by Aeon Flux. Aeon Flux mogs this movie, in other words. Everything in this has already been done better. But you haven't fucking seen it, have you? Because you didn't go to YouTube and watch Aeon Flux. It's on there for free. This fucking movie isn't free, and it sucks. Watch Aeon Flux if you want to understand everything. Just watch it. And if you are off-put by it, congratulations. You succeeded in watching it once. Watch it again. And then again. This poor girl. She's isolated because she can't handle the germs from the Indian and Chinese immigrants that the COVID vaccine was supposed to annihilate or mitigate. She can't handle the mutated variants of the flu that those cultures developed when they also started to corral animals into a square space of dirt. The flu virus. The immigrants are an economic insertion that's necessary if you want to maintain your standard of life. Do you guys understand anything I'm fucking saying? Am I speaking to no one? Am I speaking to two people who I hate? I don't care. This chick's immune system disorder is important. This is 2017. This is 2 years before COVID. Turn on your fucking brain. Disease, immunity, infection. What does it mean? It's economic. There's no secret to it. There's no mysticism. There's no religion. There's no conspiracy. It's economics. It's economic. We needed more workers, and they might be infected, so let's immunize the host population so that the workers will integrate smoothly. That's what this movie is summoning up before it happened, almost like it's predictive programming. And this poor person is the female version of Ryan Gosling. She is the femcell. She is unable to cope with any interaction with the world whatsoever because she's genetically susceptible to a mutated version of the fucking flu virus that Chinese people who raised pigs just like we did in Europe, or Indians who raised cows just like we did, developed. They unknowingly incubated a mutated version of the rhinovirus. And if you want your society to still be awesome, some of these people have to move in. You can't breed fast enough. Why don't you go have 10 white children right now? Can you do that? Can you also make them grow up in 10 years instead of 20, which is the average growth period for a generation? Can you replace the workers that have been lost to age, death, etc. by having 20 kids? No, you can't, can you? Even if you're a fucking uber Chad, you can't do it. Even if you're an epic red-pilled right-wing Chad, can you have 15 children? That's the amount you'd have to maintain the standard of living you're currently living in, you fucking idiot. Go ahead and blame the migration on some conspiracy. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sit in your mother's basement and eat porridge for the rest of your life. You're fucked. You're fucked if you see things this way. This movie is screaming at you. It's screaming that this is something that has to happen if you want your standard of living to stay the same. If you want it to decline, good luck, because most people don't. Even if it would be good if we went back in time a little, you know? That whole Cro-Magnon monkey meme. Well, we fucked up, guys. We're sitting at computers. Let's go back to bashing each other's skulls in with rocks. Duh! That's a great system, guys. I'd rather go back to the rock to skull splitting system. That sounds awesome. I'd rather have that than have immigration. I'd rather have that. That sounds great. If you're that stupid, go back in time and die of dysentery from drinking from a watering hole. You'll be left behind because you deserve to be left behind, because you're comfortable there and you've chosen it. And this is the moment. Now I have to rubber band back to the film here. He realizes, he's starting to realize he's not Christ. He's a Christ clone, made to send a message, not to make a difference, but to pretend to make a difference. One of the best performances ever, that line. So glorious. And this woman's reaction is underappreciated. Her quiet weeping, and she wipes her eyes with her sleeves. And he walks out into the snow, and everything is gray and white and black. And he's awake now. He's no longer under their control. He understands his lack of utility. He understands his disposability. He understands his mortality. And anyone who understands that is the most dangerous human being on earth. Anyone who understands that whatever they do doesn't matter, they become. More than the Joker, more than Batman, more than Superman, they become as close to God as you can get. If you're able to fully understand how contrived and useless your position is, you'll ascend without trying. You'll just float up. And all of a sudden, everything's different. And now they're gonna kill him. And they would. But he fakes it. He says to his boss, I did it. He's getting chewed up by some lesbian cunt. I'd punch her nose so far down her throat she could smell her own ass. I'd rip her hair follicles out and feed them to her, like spaghetti. I'd take her lips and twist them around her face until they stuck into her eyes. This cunt, one of the best villains, so beautifully crafted, very, very hateable. My God. Just like a conduit for hate. Beautifully designed. And he lies. He uses the artist's lie. And she's so relieved. She's so ready to believe his lie, she becomes the robot, the goy. Just because he lied. Amazing. Amazing twist. When I first saw this movie, I thought he's fucked. He's going to get thrown to prison. He's going to have to escape. They're going to do an escape narrative, right? Very grateful they didn't do that. They had him cuck her. Which, again, it's a quick scene. You could say it's contrived. Sure. I appreciate its role in the narrative. It makes the narrative more intense. It's more interesting. Again, this movie, it's not perfect. It has a lot of flaws, but I love talking about it because it has a lot of relevance, and there's a lot of interest in it, and a lot of groups were interested in making it that influenced its symbolism, which is something that you should understand. No, now she's got a kimono. She can be as, I will be your Asian wife. Mark Zuckerberg, Linus Tech Tips. I will be your Asian wife. I will not influence you in any way. I am a robot that does everything you say, but I'm also recording everything you do. Oh, in comes the siren. The whore. What's she doing here? She's even got a red, fluffy coat like the fucking harpies from The Last Unicorn. She's a harpy. And even his girlfriend is like, oh, she's okay. Why don't you fuck her? Why don't we extract your DNA? Because you're about to die. Like a vampire squid, you've fulfilled your performative purpose, and now you have nothing left but death. For those of you who don't know, who aren't insane, let me explain. The vampire squid is a very rare type of squid that lives very deep in the ocean. It has a certain pattern of behavior. It likes to put on shows. The males and the females will use ink like we use ink in books and in television to put on shows for each other, for fun. That's all well and good. But as soon as they have sex successfully, they kill themselves. They commit unaliving. And many of the practices that seem to be becoming more common in our society seem, oddly enough, to be mimicking the practices of that particular organism, despite the fact that we as humans are not squids. There seems to be a certain similarity. And that similarity is only shown or portrayed in science fiction shows like this. But it's a very typical pattern. And it's a sort of revelry following right up to death. It's sort of eat, drink, and be merry. But that mentality is applied to every aspect of life. Like life is just a carnival or a party or some kind of clown show or stage show, some Shakespearean show. And when it's over, everybody just ends their lives. It's a very dramatic and very stark kind of conception of reality, but this movie taps into it. And the original Blade Runner does the same. I don't know if I talked about that in my Blade Runner video, but this movie is especially relevant in this case because there's this sense of this overemphasis of illusion leading to a kind of rejection of reality. And for those squids in their ocean, in the dark, putting on shows for each other, that's all they can do. They have no access to anything better. Right? That's what their biology dictates. That's just what they do. But for humanity to do that, as a species of parasitically infected ape creatures trying to advance the cause of language, it's very limiting and very, well, I don't quite know the word. It's, oh, she's undressing. Let's say it's surface level. Eyes wide shut. It's the intensity of seeing the surface for the first time, like a creature of the sea might see the surface when it first bursts through it. It's a shock. And the only way it makes sense, the only way that it can survive, the only way that that kind of social or cultural practice can survive is by hypnosis. It's by telling you that it's natural to you, that you actually wanted this. You wanted this life. And to not be aware that you're in it, that you're being told what you should like. Oh, she's popping a Zin or something. What the fuck's she doing? Oh, no. Oh, she's putting a tracker on you, my friend. Be careful. That's why you should never fuck a hoe, my friend. Better to jack off. It's interesting, too, in this film, there's a detail I haven't talked about. The sculpture here is wood. It's very primitive, very crude, very blocky. The sculptures in the original Blade Runner are made of paper. They're very, very carefully folded. Now we have this interaction between the real whore and the virtual whore. Neither of them have any reason to feel superior. I've been inside you. She's like, we had a polyamorous relationship. You had a fetish for being fucked by dogs. Ha ha ha. As if that matters. Again, stupid line. The best line in this case would have been that she just looks at her and says nothing and then just leaves. Again, this movie, it stumbles, it falls short. It does a lot of things right, but it does a lot of things wrong. Especially this scene where he's trying to sort of... This is where Ryan Gosling's character starts to blur with Harrison Ford's, where he's trying to be a badass. He's like, the authorities are coming for me. I need you, and they might kill me. And blah, blah, blah. It's not done the way it should be done. It's too clinical, and I don't think that chick should have come back. That Russian mail order bride, her presence was not useful beyond that one scene in terms of the construction of the film. She should have not reoccurred. She should have not come back. It should have been an issue between him and his AI wife. In the same way that I would have rewritten Jared Leto's character in this, Ryan Gosling's character in this would have started to have a disagreement with his wife. That would have been way more interesting. Make the movie about him confronting an AI that, like him, doesn't quite feel like it's human in its own bounds. And maybe it's starting to demonstrate some semblance of sentience. That would have been far more interesting. And I know why they didn't do it, because this movie's already way too long. The scenes go on for too long. Again, there's a lot of indulgent shit in this. It's crafted in such a way that it's difficult to parse, and it's difficult to criticize. You know, a lot of things go on very quickly. Anyway, I'm going to end the second part of this recording here. Thank you again for watching this far, if you have, and Don't worry, we'll be right back. We're at 1 hour 34 minutes. 34, 42, 43, 44, 45. And just like that, guys, we are back with more Blade Runner. So he's talking to the I'm the Captain Now guy from that Captain Phillips movie, and he's trying to get his real horse. He's a My Little Pony fan. He wants his own MLP doll with some special modifications made to it. And for some reason also in the future they still use CRTs. I don't know how I didn't notice that. Like, what the fuck is this? No one would use a CRT in 2049. I guess there was some EMP attack or something in the past. Again, I haven't been talking much about the lore or story of this movie. I've kind of just been using it as an excuse to riff, which, I'm fine with. But anyway. This guy's like, it came from Somalia. My grandfather carved horses for a living. Then the British killed his entire family. Oh wait, it was the Dutch, not the British. This guy's thin as fuck, man. He needs to have a sub sandwich or something. God damn, poor bastard. Maybe he's twink moding. I'm not going to judge. Alright, so Cunt Supreme has now found his apartment, complete with the Apple Vision AI railroad ceiling thing. Oh, and he's got a micro SD. Shouldn't have left that there. Now she's going to know what kind of porn you watch. Bad look, my friend. Then we, of course, have another reference to Blade Runner where he's zooming in, just like Harrison Ford did, where he said zoom in and enhance, that whole thing. And then we have this sort of, it's almost like ancient Egypt, even though it's America. Isn't that interesting? This whole area kind of looks like ancient Egypt, but it's been abandoned. I love that fantasy, that the Great Canyon, the Grand Canyon rather, is an ancient mine, like a lithium mine, because the sides of it look exactly like something that is human-made or was human-made at some point, or maybe not human-made. I love that theory, man. This movie, again, like the original Blade Runner, as I said before, has a ton of occult hints and nods and all sorts of shit. What you have to realize about those things is they're opportunistic reusings or recontextualizations of existing ancient symbols that we really don't quite understand. And the best we can do in the 21st century is when we don't understand something about the past and we have fragmentary information about it, whether it's symbols or, one or two artifacts or whatever it is, we like to just make up stories because we can't stand things to be unexplained. It's a very interesting phenomenon. We willfully misinterpret things for fun because we're bored and unsatisfied with half-explained or 1/10 explained type shit. We just have to have a full story. We have to have a full, complete narrative. It's like an autism, or a form of autism that all humans share. We all need a perfect, complete story to explain existence or explain the past. It's a very serious detriment to your life because you can fall down rabbit holes, whether it's a religion or a cult or whatever it is, just because the cult offers you a comforting explanation that seems complete. It jacks off your logic brain and your emotion brain at the same time. It says, I have a complete story for you. I've explained everything. Isn't this great? Now follow me. Drink this cyanide. Now I love this scene because this human bitch is being totally dominated by this chick. This is the inmates taking over the asylum, the replicants. Ironically, they're replicants and they can't replicate. That's sort of a hidden joke. But this actress, I forget her name, she's very good. God, she's so nuts. This Lilith. And this bitch is like, you know what? I've done my time. My job's done. I'm ready to die. Very, very noble death. Despite the kind of bullshit Deus Ex Machina. I mean, this chick is a literal Deus Ex Machina. She's a walking assassin. She's a walking knife. Her only purpose in the story is to be a cunt. This movie gets away with a lot, I feel like, because some of the characters are robots. So it's like, oh, of course she acts weird because she's a robot. And it's like, I like that she's unhinged. I like that she's trying to approximate emotion and failing. That's kind of interesting. But again, in the story, like functionally, her role is basically just to be a cunt. And she's like, he's gone to ancient Egypt. There he is. Not what we think is Egypt, which is a giant film set built in the 1800s by Napoleon and his goons. No, real Egypt. The ruins of it. It's where Harrison Ford hangs out. I mean, if I were Harrison Ford, I'd hang out here too. And look at that, we have an open-mouthed, one-eyed statue. It's like it's blowing someone with one eye closed. Isn't that interesting? Two chicks. Again, they're like sucking invisible dicks. The statues actually don't make that much sense in terms of their design in this scene. I don't know, would there have been water pouring out of their mouths or something? Was that the thing? Again, very ancient Greece, very ancient Egypt. Oh, giant human statues. How dare you venerate the human form? How dare you glorify the spacesuit that you're in? You should be ashamed of it instead. I much prefer shame. I love being ashamed of existing. That's much more fun. Makes me a lot more well-adjusted and stable and happy to exist if I feel constant shame at my existence. Anyway, enough about that crap. That whole statue thing, man, I could talk for like an hour about that. Basically, there's beehives. Now, this is an interesting motif in this movie because the bees are drones. The queen is the only female and the drones are all male. And what's interesting about bees is they can't reproduce. So they're exactly like the replicants. The replicants have no ability to reproduce. And it's not actually by design. It seems to be a flaw. And the other thing that's interesting about bees is way back in the day when the old poets were writing poems, a poet called Virgil wrote a poem, or a series of poems, called the Georgics, where he compared the keeping of a human army to the keeping of a beehive. It was sort of a diegetic thing. It was a teacher trying to teach through poetry. That's what the Georgics essentially were. He was writing about how to maintain a civilization, in particular its military. And he said you have to conceptualize your army like a horde of bees. They're these drones that serve the hive. And he wasn't making any sort of philosophical or moral commentary about the metaphor between bees and people. He was trying to say that if you defend your society like a beehive, you'll have an easier time of it, essentially. So the inclusion of bees in this movie I always thought was a good idea. And I love this. He just effortlessly steps over this guy's string trap. He's like, I have 99 sneak, level 100 sneak in Skyrim. I can step right over this shit. God damn it, this movie's long, guys. There's an hour left. We'll get through it. We'll power through, one way or another. Man, that shot looks like a matte painting. Holy shit. That's like old school looking. I love the amount of booze, too. Harrison Ford's just been hoarding booze from every hotel. It's like me. If I lived in this universe, I'd live here. I'd be a nice comfy recluse in a ancient Egypt kind of vibe. I don't know. It's like a casino or something. I was going to say hotel, but I don't know what this place is. He mentions it offhand in a line, but again, I haven't watched this movie in a while. And he finds the sheet music, and of course, again, this is like a parlor of nostalgic references to the original movie. Because of course, Rachel plays the piano, and during that scene in the original Blade Runner, she is playing, and while she is, Harrison Ford's character has a vision of a unicorn. And then we have the dog of death, Cerberus, guarding its master's chamber. And it's all reddish orange. It's like he's gone into hell, right? Very, very romantic, classical sort of metaphors, visual metaphors in this. That's why I like this movie. I can't hate it. It's not perfect. It doesn't even come close to the original in terms of how good that movie is, but it does do a pretty good job of trying to follow it. In terms of coattail riding, this movie knows what it's doing. Harrison Ford's like, I used to make cabinets for George Lucas. Then he hired me to be an actor. I didn't realize I was being roped into the Hollywood system and I'd basically be in hell for the next 50 years. I keep saying no to movies, and then they offer me so much money that it would be insane to say no, so I have to say yes. Also, don't talk to me about the damn parties. The degeneracy levels are off the fucking charts. It's like if degeneracy were radiation, Hollywood would be a giant elephant's foot. I love that line too. The writing in this is pretty good. He's like, don't lie, it's rude. Kind of a cold, creepy thing to say. Very noir. Again, the best aspects of these films, both the original and this one, are when they ape noir tropes and sort of revitalize or remix them for a science fiction aesthetic. That's where this series shines, is where it really embraces the whole neo noir thing. Again, just the visuals in this, just looking at it, you can almost forgive any of the nostalgia bait type of shit. You can forgive the corniness of some parts of this. You can even forgive the overlong length of the movie, just because of how good the lighting is. Like, god damn, this looks beautiful. Every frame a painting, EFAP. And then, ooh, missed that little grenade trap. Maybe your sneak level isn't as high as you thought it was. Whoops. Again, Harrison Ford, I love how he's amazed how resilient Ryan Gosling's character is. Like, the replicants are just more and more indestructible as time goes by. Now he's in a movie theater. Of course, they have to have a meta moment. And of course, it's Elvis. That's fucking great. There's no audio for copyright reasons, but they frame it in the context of the scene as if the system that's playing the audio is just glitching out. They're like, oh, it's glitching because it's old. It's like, no, they didn't want to pay royalty fees. That's the reason that you're not hearing Elvis here. Or you'll notice they're giving you like less than 5-second clips to avoid copyright. That's fucking great. It's like, I know what you're doing. It's like, if you tried talking to the guy, like maybe saying why you're here. I don't know why he's silent for the whole fucking thing. I guess he's trying not to give away his position, but you'd think he would at least... Well, no, he's programmed. He's being tactical. He needs to disarm Harrison Ford before they can have a conversation. Oh god, these creepy dancers, man. It's like, you're not gonna fight this guy, man. You're an old man and he's got crazy strength. He just takes it. God damn. He's trying, man. Again, this scene could have been cut. It could have been a more intelligent interaction where Ryan Gosling says, "Listen, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to talk to you." And Harrison Ford could say, "Well, if you're here to kill me and you're trying to trick me, I'm old anyway, so I don't care." Those two lines I just spoke, that could have saved 10 minutes of this crap. Because the action in this scene is not interesting, because we know Harrison is not going to kill Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling is not going to kill Harrison's character. It's like stalling so that this conversation could happen. This could have just happened immediately. It wouldn't have been a detriment to the film to cut 10 minutes from it. Like this action scene, quote unquote, is not interesting. You wanted the viewers to jack off to some hologram of Elvis. It's not worth the time. And again, this movie's fucking 2 hours and 43 minutes. It's a slog. The original Blade Runner is nowhere near that length. And it feels even shorter than it is because it's so goddamn good. I gotta say it, man. I gotta say, they could have cut a lot of fat from this. This movie just has fat hanging off of it, like chunks of gristle on a really nice filet mignon steak. Like you've ordered a really expensive steak, it's great, but there's like huge chunks of fat on it. And they've sold you the steak by weight, right? They've said it's so many ounces. And how much of that is just fat? That's what modern movies have been for a while now. And this suffers from it too. It's a shame because there's a lot of great ideas and great visuals in this. The fucking Elon Musk designed Johnny Walker liquor bottle, that's great. Pours one out for the fucking dog. His dog is also a drunk. I fucking love that, man. His dog is also an alcoholic. Is it real? And he just goes, "I don't know." That's great. Again, reference to the ambiguity from the first film. Harrison Ford is not a replicant. He was never supposed to be. But fan theories kind of went nuts. And this movie kind of makes fun of the slightly schizoid fan theories about Harrison Ford's status as a person. It does it multiple times. And because he's in hell, he's telling the truth. He's like, well, I've descended to this metaphorical place, and I don't have a real name, but if you want to call me by one, I'll give you a random one, Joe. Now, is he going to say it's Rachel? I don't know if he actually says it. I don't remember this scene. And he thinks she's some kind of Mother Mary, you know, to this NPC drone, this bee strayed from the hive. This woman is like an alternative queen. Harrison, come on, man, you're fucked. He could just kill you. Better answer him. Her name is a golden bell hung in my heart. It would break my body to pieces to call her once by her name. I knew a girl named Rachel in high school. Very nice girl. The quiet girls are always the good ones. I slept not with her, but on her. I passed her over. Maybe I shouldn't have. Ah, man, this movie. It's jostling my emotions. It's a good film. Everyone had a part. Mine was to leave. Great line. I like that line. And this whole movie, if you really want to get schizo and esoteric and fantasy laden with your speculation, the whole idea of the Nephilim breeding with humans is referenced by the situation in this movie. We have humans breeding with replicants. The humans have taken the place of the quote-unquote giants or the fallen angels or whatever the fuck kind of biblical schizo shit you want to indulge in. This movie is a half-breed narrative, which in reality is just a reference to race mixing or to breeding with someone that society has not given you approval to reproduce with. And it's not like being gay, it's having a child. It's that the child that you're going to have is going to be some kind of abomination. So there is that thread in this film. And it sounds maybe a bit of a stretch, but it's there. If you just pay attention, this movie is touching on a lot of existing social issues as well as a lot of creepy, crazy theories. It does a very good job of being poetic in the sense that what it presents to you visually can be interpreted according to a whole bunch of different interpretations or perspectives. And then we have Frank Sinatra. Hell yeah, man. He's a real one. He's one of the good ones. Fucking Frank. Wish I could have shook his hand, man. Brilliant, brilliant singer. If you've never listened to Frank Sinatra, holy shit. I hope you'll go listen to him right now. Not every song he's done is great, but god damn, his voice is good. And we have his Harrison Ford's gaming setup over there. He's got 500 3-inch CRTs. He likes to play old games. He only plays Game Boy games. So you don't need a very big screen for those. Ooh. But here we have drones shitting out other drones. Why would you abandon this entire area? Like, was it that badly irradiated? Like, what the hell's wrong with it? Did China nuke us here? Did they nuke New Vegas? Did they nuke whatever the fuck place this is? I never... They had some throwaway line like 40 minutes ago in the movie about like, oh, that area is abandoned because it got polluted or something. It's like, well, Harrison Ford seems to have done fine here. Maybe he just never leaves this building. Maybe he doesn't get exposed to the radiation. Who knows? You moron, you brought your fucking GF. They tracked him because they knew what porn he was watching. He's like, you didn't use a VPN? You retard. No, you didn't. You did come alone. I was going to say you didn't come alone. You've been coming alone for a while now. If you know what I mean. Why would you bring the only backup copy of your GF with you? Why wouldn't you just leave her behind? Again, stupid decision. I guess this guy's a robot. He's kind of stupid. Again, there's excuses upon excuses that you can extract just from the situation. Like, oh, well, he brought his GF because he has nobody else, and he's stupid. And he just breaks through the wall. Holy shit. That's so good, man. Just jumps through a fucking wall. Holy shit. That's awesome. Uh-oh. Baroness Cuntington is here. In her cuntmobile. She's here to crush your head between her thighs. And not in the way you want her to. Oh no, it's these men in black motherfuckers. If they're wearing masks, does that mean that this place being irradiated or off limits or out of bounds is like a lie? Is it a psyop? Is there no radiation? I never quite figured out what the deal was with this area, and it bothers me. It bothers me because it's a major plot point, because this whole fucking mega city is abandoned in a universe or a future where there's apparently shit tons of people that have emigrated to the States, or the population is blown up somehow. And yet this entire huge city with presumably infrastructure and everything, it's all like, it's just abandoned. Like, nobody would abandon this. They'd clean it up because there'd be money in it, or there'd be space for people to live. You're a Syrian, not a Lyran. Everyone knows cats are the lords of Egypt. The toxoparasites have built civilizations far greater than those dog worms that you fuckers are controlled by. Ha 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 ha! Oh god, I hate this scene, man. Why would there not be a backup of this chick? There's so much about this that bothers me because it makes no sense. It's done for dramatic reasons, I get it. It's a very dramatic scene. It's great. You killed my virtual GF. How could you? So maybe the real Lilith was the fake girlfriend. That's not true. There's no, the Lilith metaphor, you know what? I leaned on it earlier in this movie because I thought it made sense. I'm kind of doubting that now. I'm going to walk back on that. I'm going to go ahead and, walk backwards on that whole take, I think. Again, so many beautiful scenes. The dog watching the drones fly away. Beautiful scene. But again, there's a sort of vapidity to it. It's not as weighty as the original movie. The original Blade Runner is still better. I don't remember this scene. What is he, playing dead? Did they just leave him there? I guess they did. Why would she not have brought him back? I guess she captured Harrison Ford. That was the whole point. But you'd think she would have killed this guy. Again, huge flaw. The first flaw is, if his girlfriend was on that memory stick that got crushed, right? Why would there, if he's paying for her, or if he bought into some AI GF service or subscription or whatever, you'd think there'd be like a backup somewhere, or that he would have a hidden backup of her. Like, if I were this guy, I would have hidden 5 backups of her. I would have like encased them in melted plastic and then put them in Faraday cages and then hid them in the walls. This guy's a robot. You'd think that he would have done that for his virtual GF. He would have hid a bunch of backups of her in his house or something. I don't know. Ooh, nice ass on that hologram. God damn. Anyway, the point is that bothers me. And then also the sort of contrived lack of him being killed. like why would this chick not have stomped his head into mush? You know, is she programmed to let him live? Is that the implication? I don't know. Obviously her mission was to get Harrison Ford. I get it. But why would she not have killed this guy? I don't know, maybe Wallace told her not to. I guess that's the excuse. We'll have to see. Again, haven't seen this movie in a while. If I sound stupid, that's why. Because I don't remember this shit. He's got a nice Christ wound in his abdomen, like he was stabbed with a Roman spear. But this guy's got, he's got Messiah complex, schizo syndrome. He thinks he's important. And he actually is, in the context of the narrative, yes. But he thinks he's more important than he actually is. And I love how this area, it looks like Wallace's pyramid with the water reflecting off the ceiling. That's a nice motif that's shared by these two spaces that are totally opposite. We've got this rebel hideout, like some kind of siege from Dune, and then you have Wallace's pyramid. And of course, a one-eyed woman, my God. The one-eye thing. That whole meme. There it is again. I watched it come out of her robotic vagina. It's interesting too that this movie frames these pairings of robots and people as miraculous, by the robots' standard, or from the rebels' perspective as well. Maybe they are abominations, The movie doesn't really make a hard judgment about that. It implies that the child is somehow unique or interesting or miraculous, but it doesn't make a moral judgment about the alternate perspective. The people who want to destroy it, obviously they're they have their own insidiousness in them, but the overall philosophy behind it, like not even including the people and what they do, but the actual ideas, it's kept ambiguous. God, her skeletal eye, creepy as fuck, man. Again, the Egypt motif, it's the freeing of the slaves, even though there was no evidence that the Hebrews were ever in Egypt historically. So that story is probably bullshit. There's evidence that Christ existed, he was an actual person, but there's no evidence that the Hebrews were ever slaves to the Pharaoh. Isn't that interesting? They always say they were victims because of that particular story, but there's actually no historical evidence that it ever happened. But there is historical evidence of Christ. Isn't that interesting? I always found that kind of funny. You cannot allow the plot to deviate. We must have another 45 minutes of overly long scenes that are inferior to the original. And we'll shoehorn or ham-fist as many occult images and references into this as we can, because we don't actually understand what those symbols originally meant. We just want to hypnotize you with them because you're stupid. That's this entire movie, man. Good Lord. Yeah, you weren't the son, you jackass. What, you thought it was you? The first time I watched this movie, I sympathized with Ryan Gosling. And watching it now, I'm like, how dumb are you? If like, you think you are the child? Like, no. What are the chances of that? Just because you have a memory of a horse? Fuck you, man. And this scene is so cringy now. Originally, it was very impactful for me when I first watched this. She goes, "You imagined it was you." And then she's like, no, you didn't just imagine it. You actually believed it. And to her credit as a character, she's sympathetic. The best ending that this movie never pursued would have been that the child was stillborn. There was no child. And it was all a story. If the movie had ended on that, my God, it would have been good. It would have maybe been as good as the original. If the ending of this movie was that Rachel never gave birth, it was stillborn, and they burned the body. But the myth of her giving birth, the myth of the virgin birth, the myth of the holy woman, the myth of God was so powerful. It hypnotized so many people to do so many great things, to obey orders, to not be pieces of shit. It was such a powerful social control mechanism that it couldn't, like the people in power couldn't let go of it. That would have been a brilliant ending. That's my other edit for this movie. I'm not going to bring Plinkett in again, okay? We've done one Plinkett summoning for one video. We're going to limit it to one. Maybe I'll do another one if, I feel like it would help. But from now on, we're going to make that a rule. I don't want Plinkett to take over this channel. I love RLM. I don't want to sort of step on their toes, step on their territory. They've made great content for a lot of people for a long time. I've wanted you to join my California sex cult, Harrison Ford. I'm actually into older men. It's a secret I don't tell many people. My little leech parasite drones are floating around you. How would you like to be infected with the gay? He's fucking grooming. He's grooming an older man. The guy's twice his age. He's trying to groom him. Fuck, man. That's funny. I found the key to your anus, Harrison. It's George Lucas's money. Don't you want to just spread your cheeks for Hollywood? Yes. So, again, here's a huge fucking flaw that really pisses me off. How the fuck could they not figure out how to make the replicants fertile? That makes no goddamn sense to me. You can engineer an entire human being or a facsimile of one, but you can't make it fertile? What is this Deus Ex Machina shit? It's like, God wouldn't let us make fake people that could breed. It just didn't work magically. Like, fuck off, man. They can make a whole person out of goop, but the fake people that they made can't breed? The original Blade Runner didn't even touch on that issue, which is why it was so great. The issue of the replicants being fertile was irrelevant. And in this, it's the central fucking point of the whole movie. It's the crux of the whole film. Though we just can't figure it out. How can you not figure it out? I don't care if there was an EMP that erased a bunch of data. I don't care. You've got this crazy cyberpunk civilization, and you can't engineer your constructed people to be able to breed? You can reproduce every cell in the body except the sexual gametes? That somehow is impossible? It makes no fucking sense, man. It's the theme over the logic and the substance of the story. The theme is placed above it. And the original movie didn't do that. The original movie didn't have to. It knew what its strengths were. At least the cut without Harrison Ford's voiceover, which is horrible. I'm talking about the final cut, or the director's cut, of the first movie. The one I did a review on, which is on this channel, which you should watch, and like and subscribe. But for real, it's bizarre that this one replicant had a mutation that allowed it to breed, and they're obsessed over extracting DNA from her bones because they can't replicate the gene that lets them breed? Like, it makes no sense. I'm sorry if I come across like Mahler or some autismo who makes 15-hour videos. I respect that guy for his depth of research, but he does go overboard in terms of his dissections. I think he has to learn what to leave out. He needs a better editor. He's like George R.R. Martin. Mahler and George R.R. Martin are similar in that they really need good editors paired with them, and they don't have them apparently. Oh God, Harrison does a good job though. He's a good actor. Holding back tears. Clever to keep yourself empty of information. And I feel like that's my life. I'm not playing dumb. I'm being dumb, for real. Whew. Shout out to Harrison's character for following that path. It's not a fun one. But it gets you where you need to go a hell of a lot faster than a lot of other paths. And in some sense, the challenge is fun. Pretending to be dumb if you're smart, it's very humbling. It reduces your ego's influence on you. He's like, I've made a bunch of children. I'm like a bug. I am the queen in the beehive. I have all these bees. Yeah, and your bees can't breed. Congratulations. Turns out Jared Leto was actually a woman. He was sex changed in utero. That's why they picked him to play the metaphorical fake queen in this. He's a very good Satan, or a very good Lucifer, a very good antagonist to Well, no, I shouldn't say Lucifer. Lucifer's not Satan. They're completely different historical figures, which most people don't know. He's supposed to be Satan in this, and his attempt to replicate humanity, to copy nature, is bad enough on its own. But then he thinks his copies are better than what God made, than the natural, random, chaotic evolution of people. Again, I don't necessarily believe in a God, but this movie is trafficking in that kind of symbology, so I do have to talk about it in those terms. And the CGI here is very good. I mean, they really sold the movie on this. They were like, look, it's Rachel. I think it would have been cool if they got the original actress back and didn't do any of this bullshit. It would have been cool if she looked old, and I'll tell you why. Jared Leto's character could have said to Harrison Ford, well, you've aged quite a bit. Here's my version of Rachel if she hadn't died in childbirth. She's exactly your age. Then they could have brought back the original actress. Instead, they shafted the original actress, or else she refused to be in it. I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but it would have been better if she looked old. And Jared Leto had said, I thought you'd be more comfortable if she matched you in age, as if she'd never died, or something, some line that's not horrible like what I just said. But he could have done that. And if that had been what had been written in the script, it would have been better. Again, there's like my third big edit for this movie, or fourth big edit. She should have been the original actress, and he should have killed her, exactly like in this scene. Exactly the same. But make it the original actress. Because he says her eyes are the wrong color. Man, don't ever make that mistake with a woman, let me tell you. I had a crush on a chick in high school, and for some reason, somehow, I was so dumb that I wrote a poem to her, and I said that her eyes were the wrong color. I don't know how I made that mistake. Maybe it was from a different timeline, and I don't know, in my original timeline, she had different eyes. Who the fuck knows? I think I was just being an idiot. But I described her eyes as a different color, and she remembered. I reconnected with her a couple of years ago, and she was like, you wrote a poem for me, and you said my eyes were this color. And I was like incensed, like you got it wrong. It's like the writer or the poet's worst nightmare. I made a linguistic error. I made a mistake, and it was interpreted that deeply. Like the mistake will follow me forever. Like that one mistake could have changed the course of my life. I could have been married to this chick. We could have had 4 kids. Who knows? Interesting little tidbit there. But anyway, speaking of sex, now we have the famous scene of him staring at the hologram. Of course, that's been memed 1,000 times. Joy, but with J-O at the front, like jack off. Do you get it? What does he throw away there? He throws away the horse? He throws away something? He's like, well, still got my gun. Dying for the right cause is the most human thing you can do. Man, that sounds like terrorist talk. Sounds like extremism, guys. I don't know if YouTube is going to like this commentary. Whew. It's pretty harsh. The next scene is just him in a plane, and it shows like him flying towards the World Trade Center. He took the advice literally. Jesus Christ. All right, so they're going towards the ice wall. I mean the sea wall. Oops. What a flub. You're entering Los Angeles airspace. Unless you enjoy flying through vaporized shit, you should turn around. It's pretty nasty in here. California is full of trash people. And again, Harrison Ford, a lot like the police chief woman, he's kind of ready to die. He's like, all right, you know, if this is it, this is it. That makes sense. His sort of complacent attitude kind of fits. But goddamn, if this movie had gone differently, it could have been really good. It could have been incredible. It could have been something that really grabbed that little grain of light that the original movie seemed to grab. I don't know. It falls short. And it's not because of the performances or the visuals. It's the writing. The writing falls short. And not by much. I'm being a prick. We too low, ho li fuk. If you've never seen that news broadcast, holy shit. Fucking love that meme. Ho li fuck, we too low, bang ding ow. That's fucking great. And I do like this scene. Everything about this scene is very well done. The water flooding in. Harrison's trapped. He's gonna drown. God, the way she moves. This actress who plays this replicant with the brown hair. She moves so creepily. She has a subtle robotic kind of jiltedness to her movement. She performs very well. Like, again, I would not criticize any performance in this. I think all the performances are great. I just think the writing, it could have used some tweaks. They could have used some tweaks. That's all I'm saying. Leave. There he goes, blows the pilot away. Don't waste your shots, man. Wait till she's in view. God damn. Oof. Hitting the gut again. This guy's been Jesus stabbed twice. 2 Roman spears. 1 for each hemisphere of the brain. It's appropriate, I guess. He's been through 2 trials. An emotional trial and an intellectual trial. Now he's complete. Now he's really, really dangerous. I love this scene. She's just beating the shit out of him. She's just as powerful as he is. She's like another man. Maybe she was born male in the womb and sexually fiddled with so that she was born female, even though her DNA says male. That's a very fringe conspiracy theory. It's very, very odd, very weird. But I wouldn't put it past modern science to have already figured it out. And like in 2001, there's a line that Haywood Floyd says that's very important, and you should consider it. You should keep it in your mind. And the line is this. Haywood Floyd says, the potential for cultural shock is very grave. And without the right conditioning, people will freak out and society could destabilize. So we have to feed people lies because the truth is so psychologically fraught. It's so dangerous. It's a kind of a cognito hazard that we have to tell people lies until we've killed off by force through psyops all the idiots. And when the smart people are left, then we can tell them the truth. Great strategy. Let's see how that plays out, Cotton. Let's see how that idealistic, crazy shit plays out, if any of it's even remotely real. Because if you kill off too many people, you're going to kill off some smart people who seem stupid. And maybe you're going to save some stupid people who seem smart. And no AI is going to tell you the difference. Anyway, let's rubber band back to the movie here. I love this scene. The drowning of this cunt is so perfect because she's essentially drowned in a feminine element in water. This is something that happens in Hamlet. There's Ophelia and Ophelia's mother potentially who are killed through drowning. Very very good use of that trope of the drowning of a woman, the woman returning to the water, the mermaid, the siren, the feminine water element is dissolved back into itself. It's beautifully done. I mean, it's a horrific scene, but where she finally dies, she's looking up at his image through the water. And again, Jesus walked on water, blah blah blah, all that shit. But this shot of her face after she's dead, it's like she's still looking at him. And finally she sees, maybe he was the savior. Maybe his sacrifice of himself was what mattered. His martyrdom, his saving of the old man, who in Jungian archetypal terms is the reservoir of knowledge. He's the keeper of his culture's narratives. He's incredibly important, and he's kept himself secluded in order to keep that knowledge a secret. And in this movie's case, it's the knowledge of the replicant, half human daughter. It's sacred, secret knowledge that people couldn't or wouldn't accept. And this man has devoted his life to preserving it. And our hero is not a person who slays dragons. He's not a guy who wins battles. He's a guy who saves an old man's life. That is great. That's brilliant. It's very important. It's more important than most movies will ever portray it to you. The saving of an old man's life. Who the fuck cares? He's going to die in 10 years. What does he know? What knowledge has he absorbed? The wise old man, the sage, that character, they're instrumental to the survival of the entire society. And when you start mistreating the elderly, even if you're in a position like we are now globally, where we don't have enough 20 to 40-year-olds, we have a lot of old people, we need to double down. We need to be even more aggressive about helping the elderly. And the reason is because they know shit. They know about all the hypnosis and magician's tricks and bullshit that has been used in the past to fuck with you. And if you ask them the right questions, they will give you brilliant information. I was lucky enough myself to have a great-grandmother. She lived to be 101. And she remembered things that are unbelievable. Like she remembered shit from before there were cars. She remembered when the place I used to live didn't have paved streets. It had literally mud roads with carriages. She remembered, she grew up before flight was invented, and I was lucky enough to be able to have some conversations with her. That's what I'm talking about, that type of value. If you dismiss elderly people, your society will collapse rapidly. In this movie, it says something that not a lot of movies, even art house dramas, like a lot of them don't say this at all. It says, don't fuck over your elders. It's actually worth it. Every now and then, not all the time, but every now and then it's worth it if a young person dies to save an old person. If that death was justified, if the person that was saved had knowledge or had a connection that should have been saved. It's a very specific and very rare kind of message to find in a normie, AAA blockbuster, whatever you want to call it, movie. Not a lot of movies will say this type of thing. And that's why I love this movie, despite its flaws. Despite all my pretentious edits, I do like it, because I think just by saying what it says, by having the balls to have its character sacrifice himself for an old man he never really knew, just because he believes in the myth. And I love how ambiguous it is too. We're not sure if he dies. I don't know. There's some bullshit Amazon series, Blade Runner 2099. I don't know what the fuck it is. I haven't watched it. But this ending is so perfect. I mean, the only better ending would have been my darker ending, which would have been him realizing there was never a child and it was all a myth. And in my rewrite of this, you know, him and Harrison Ford would go back to Jared Leto's, you know, palace, and they would I don't know, there'd be some sort of a truce or something. It'd be different. That's stupid. Something different would happen. And of course, you know, the snow replaces the rain in this movie. The rain that was the ending motif of the first movie, and we get a very similar musical sting, which is, and you know, he just leans back slowly. Again, the performances are very good. He's got like salt residue on his pants from the ocean. The detail, the visuals. This movie is ace in terms of every shot. Visually, it's really well done. Really beautiful. And it's like, is he gonna die? Is he just having a rest? Well, then his eye stops moving, though. And I think he dies. I wasn't sure when I first watched this, but yeah, he does die. And then finally we get the reunion. The half-breed, the Nephilim angel half-breed, the demon angel half-breed, whatever she is. She has to be kept in this chamber, in this giant Pokeball. She's demonic. She doesn't fit in reality, but she's a genius. And what she thinks and what she creates could start a new golden age. She's something new. And all he does is put his hand on the glass. Thankfully, he doesn't say anything. They were smart enough to let silence and visuals tell the story. So, that's Blade Runner 2049. Great movie. Not perfect. Not as good as the original, but very good. Thank you for watching. I hope you're doing well in your life. I hope that your goals and struggles are not grinding you down to dust. I hope that you're not imagining or finding yourself as some kind of drone in a beehive. I hope that you've left the hive to start your own hive. You know, even if you had to make yourself into a queen temporarily. I hope that you're independent, and I hope that you're doing well. And thank you very much for watching this random bullshit I made. I appreciate it. Good Lord, there's another 10 minutes. The credits are 10 minutes in this. Okay, let's just end things here. As always, guys, as I always say, peace out.